Hi there, how are you? Welcome back to Behavioral Finance and FinTech. And we've been going through how to measure the sentiment using languages, using big data approach. Remember that? Um, Last time we learned about Bayesian, naive Bayesian classifier, right? That was one approach. Now, today, we're gonna study an alternative approach of quantifying those language, right? Um, it is like a continuous scoring on a spectrum of positive tone to negative tone based on the word list. Okay, word list. Um, that really doesn't belong to any supervised or unsupervised learning. Very simple one, okay, but very powerful. Okay, dictionary approach we call it. We resort to psycholinguistics. Those psychologists in linguistic department or the intersection, the Junghap, right? Those guys have been developing this word list that represents a certain psychological state, right? Um, Positive word list, negative word list, and whatever word list that there is, right? Um, Harvard 4 dictionary is there, and then linguistic dictionary by Penny Baker is there, LIWC. That's more famous among the strategy guys, whereas Harvard 4 is more famous in among finance guys. And then Paul Tetlock is the one who initially used it. Okay, Paul Tetlock's Journal of Finance 2007 paper. To me, the history of financial research, right, is split as before Tetlock and after Tetlock. Okay, um, people may disagree, but this is the one, very very innovative, and he won the Smith Frieden Prize, which is given to the most promising guy in economist, right? Um, at the age of 40 or something, with this paper. This is the very one. I said before Tetlock and after Tetlock. Okay. What was this? What was this paper about? Well, this is he looks at the Wall Street Journal. Okay, Wall Street Journal. There is a section called abreast of the market. Okay, keep abreast of the market. Keep up with the something, right? So what is this section about? Well, this is a small section that summarizes what happened in the stock market today. Okay, today actually once in day t minus one, yesterday what happened, right? It should be summarized by the journalist in Wall Street Journal. The guy summarizes overnight and then publishes in date t, right? So the next day. So he summarizes what happened yesterday. Okay, it is published today. The thing is, it is published in the morning, early morning of today, before the market starts. Okay, and then after market starts at 9 a.m. Okay, it's history. Okay, abreast of the market is a summary of the history of what happened yesterday. Okay, so what should happen to the stock market? Okay, with respect to this abreast of the market. Okay, efficient market hypothesis would say nothing should happen because this is history. The historical information should have all been already priced in the market. Okay, um, and then that's the basic benchmark. Nothing should happen. But the thing is, he quantified the language in the abreast of the market section. Okay? Out of total words, how many negative words were there based on Harvard 4 dictionary? He calls it pessimism measure, right? And then amazingly, he finds that more negative tone, then today the Dow Jones index average goes down significantly. And then the day t plus 1, okay, the price reverses back. Okay, price reverses back. That's an amazing finding. Okay, evidence against the efficient market hypothesis, right? So high media pessimism, right, predicts downward pressure of market prices followed by a reversion to fundamentals. And then before publishing in Journal of Finance, he circulated this paper and sold this paper. Giving a sales pitch to his research idea to various different places, all different universities, and that's the life of the professors, right? Talking to other professors in the other universities to sell my idea. The life is about sales, right? 인생은 sales이야, kind of. So he was selling this paper before the publication, many years before, right? Also, he sold this paper in various hedge funds like Renaissance Technologies or Deutsche Bank kind of investment banks, and then BlackRock kind of, asset management companies and their scientific equity trading desk, right? So industry has adopted this kind of ideas long before the academicians, right? Anyway, so that is a fascinating paper. Dictionary approach. Tetlock uses Harvard 4 dictionary. Yeah, and then test with which category matters most. Because Harvard 4 dictionary has many different categories of word list. Okay, negative word, positive words, some kind of words related to litigation, some kind of words related to gender-related issues, and kind of things like that. But among those categories, the only thing that matters, okay, not the only thing, but the most, okay, matters turned out to be negative words, not positive words. Why? Because people are more risk averse. He interpreted it in this way, so that they are more sensitive to the negative language. Okay. Tone, right, should be defined in this way: the number of negative words shown in a given article divided by the total number of words in that article. Okay. This is utterly simple measure. Why didn't we think about this, right? The breakthrough is this kind of things. Why haven't we thought about it, right? Needs to have open mind. Why negative? Yeah, I told you. Is the tone that you measure over here, is it a measure of sentiment or is it a measure of information? How would you interpret this tone measure? Is very important thing, by the way, and a very interesting thing. One thing is that, well, the rational economist, right, Chicago guys may say, well, wait a minute, that tone measure can be an information, which is qualitative information, previously not quantifiable, but now with this tone measure, we can quantify. So it is now newly quantified information. That's something you can argue, okay? Fine, that's a valid concern, right? That's valid point, indeed, yeah. The other side of this tone measure is it is a measure of psychology, okay? What you have in mind, right, shows up in your language, and negative thoughts you have, right, negative sentiment that you have, it may show up naturally in your language, right? That's a sentiment measure. Behavioral finance guy will argue in this way. So there's a constant fight like this, right? But what's the prediction based on these two different theories, right? Different interpretation, right? What's the prediction about the Dow Jones Industrial Average? If the language tone on the abreast of the market is information, okay? Information. First of all, those information should have been already reflected in the market. Okay, but still those qualitative information may not have been reflected properly yesterday, but only with this publication today it may be reflected correctly, okay, so that the price may go down. Fine, that's a good prediction, but let's take a step further, right? If it is a qualitative information quantified, then once the price goes down, the next day the price should stay the same. Because once the information is reflected, nothing else happens, then the price should stay the same. So there should not be any significant movement backwards or upward or downward in T+1 2 days later. Okay? So that's a prediction. Okay? But if you follow behavioral finance idea and then interpretation of the tone being the sentiment measure, what should happen? Well, the price should go down. Dow Jones Industrial Average should go down in day T, right? 1 day later, right? And then it should bounce back because this is just a psychology which will cancel out later on. Okay, and then the impact will be transitory, just like CEO interviews on CNBC or Gangnam Style kind of reversal, right? Upward and reversal. And here is pessimistic sentiment, downward and reversal. Okay, bouncing back should happen. Whereas information story, rational guys never return. Okay, dip in, stay there. So what's the result? Well, he finds his result that you find is transitory downward and then bouncing back, which supports the sentiment idea, psychology, behavioral finance idea. Okay, quantifying the sentiment. He's titling this paper like this, right? So that's a very sexy paper. I strongly suggest you to go ahead and Google search it and read it. Now the tone measure, right? How does it really work if I try to do it with big data analysis? Here I show you a snapshot of my computer using SAS, right? This is a matrix where this row, each row is just one single news article. And then the word count, you see it, okay? Word count, and then negative word count, and positive word count. So now you can divide this guy by word count, get the pessimism measure. If you don't like just this negative words divided by total words, you can do it like negative word counts minus positive word counts divided by word count measure. That's a valid approach as well. Okay. And then fin negative and fin positive, for that part, I have another slides to talk about it. And then other uncertainty category or strong word and weak word and these kind of things, all different categories, you measure those things. All different news articles has been done. All these kind of things now match merge with the daily stock price response. That's the idea over here. By the way, if you go to Korean news articles, I mean before this one was based on English news articles in the US. That one is about Korean news articles, right? The idea here is I translated Tetlock's Harvard 4 dictionary, right? These positive words and negative words into Korean. Okay, I keep it in my website. By the way, having said that, I need to show you the Harvard 4 dictionary word list. So let me go there. Okay, wait a minute. Yes, Harvard 4 dictionary. It's just a simple text file, very short one. So negative word list is shown over here. Abandon, 버렸어, kind of, right? You abandon it, that's negative. Abrupt, okay, something negative. Blow, right? It's negative, right? And then so all this terrorism, all these kind of words are there. Okay, so that's that. And then positive words are also there. Okay. Positive words here, right? Voluntary, yeah, I'm looking for some volunteer to do some work. Any volunteer? Yeah, please. Very positive for me. Anyway, that's word list, okay? And then, what's that? The translated, Korean translated version of it. Okay, let me go to ND. SKKU, right, like this. Yeah, and then Google Sites, if you come to my website, right, and the Kim SKKU, you can always visit here after graduation anyway, yeah, fine, welcome. And here you will see a data section. Okay, data. over here, and you see positive words and negative words, and then that I translated for my research purpose. Okay, Korean language, just translate it. All those different variations, 활용형, we try to recognize, reflect it over here. Okay, with 전태훈 and then your GBA graduate. Okay, negative words as well. Yeah. So whenever you try to do some tone measures like this, come to my website and then use it and cite my paper, please. It's all about marketing, right? So go ahead and use it, please. That's it. Okay. We are trying to upgrade this one in a different ways. But by the way, so the result, the Tetlock shows is over here. Yesterday's news pessimism affects today's price, and then the following day reverses back to normal. Okay, that's the idea over here. And then the role of media in the stock, yes. He became a big shot subsequently, right? You may find it kind of strange actually, because those words, words, negative words and positive words, how many different words do we have? Well, for negative words, we have about 4,000 words, and positive words like less than, 2,500 words or something like that. So something you may find strange. Wait a minute, the English dictionary that we worked on, right? 영한사전, that's my name by the way. 영한사전 has about 170,000 English verbs, right? And then the words, right? But only 4,000 or 2,000 words in that dictionary. Is that good enough? Sufficient? Maybe your question, but it is okay. That's the basic idea. That's something I'm going to tell you later on. Another problem you may think about is, what about double negation? Okay, that's not bad. Okay, not and bad. Bad is negative words. Okay, and not is also negative words. Not bad. Double. Negative, two times negative. It's actually neutral, right? Not bad. Sometimes it's even meaning positive. So wouldn't there be some confusion, right? Or errors in quantifying those things? But the journalists over here, right, are trained not to use double negation in the first place. I asked those journalists, so don't worry about it. That's the first message, right? Why? Because double negation is kind of confusing to read, right? It hurts the readability, and then people will dump it if it is not readable. So the journalists have more reason to say it simply, right? In a straightforward manner. So double negation kind of things, less of a worry. Any other problems is like this, 4,000 words in negative word list kind of things, right? Reliability of dictionary matters, and then the reliability, like who says these words are positive or negative? Well, Paul Tetlock, one of the good thing about he did is he chose Harvard dictionary that could intimidate the rest of the guys, right? So unless you are from Cambridge or Oxford, kind of, everybody will agree. Oh, Harvard dictionary, right? There's authoritative things, right, going on. Open source and sharing in the US. The point I'm trying to make over here is that development of those dictionaries, right, has to be more open sourced. Okay, you want to go for higher authority as well, but at the same time, you have to open up, okay, to public discussion, and then so that you have some more consensus about which words are really meaning positive or versus negative, all these kind of things, right? The thing is, in the US, it's more open source, but in Korea, it's more secretive. They're like, don't try to hurt me, 마상, right? 마음 상해, right? For example, my list of negative words and positive words over there, I open it up to make it more open source. It's subject to attack. I welcome those attacks, right? But people are emotionally, get hurt. Oh, you are challenging me. But we need to open that up, right? So that's a culture issue over there. Anyway, I told you before 171,000 words plus in standard English dictionary. Less than 3% is covered with this dictionary. With this Harvard Ford word list, right? But no problem. There is something called Ziff's law, and the message is be Donald Trump in terms of speaking language, speaking foreign language, simple words, and then day-to-day language is just good enough to carry those psychology in your thoughts, right? All those words, 171,000 words. I mean, you guys must have spent a lot of time memorizing those English words, like my father's generation, those who went to 경기고등학교, right? They always say like, I always chewed, I teared off the 영한사전, like the Korean dictionary, English dictionary, and then chewed and then swallowed it on the way to the schools, right? Every day, one page to memorize those words, right? What this Ziff's law says is you wasted your time. Okay, you should not have chewed your dictionary. First of all, the lead, the 납 중독 is a serious issue. Number two, nobody cares about the complicated words, right? Not nobody cares, but it's seldom used. Okay, for example, sphygmomanometer. What is that? Well, that's 혈압 측정기. Nobody uses that word too much, right? Too much specialized words. All we care about is day-to-day language, and that carries a good enough of information. That's it. Ziff's law taking one step further because it has a lot of meaning for economists as well as social scientists, right? You should remember Ziff's law. Ziff is the name of a linguist, okay? A linguist, 언어학자, right? That lived about 100 years ago or something. His research was like very simple idea. Okay, let's take a whole bunch of documents, political statements or whatever documents written in English, right? And then simply count. I mean, thousands of documents, right? Simply count for each word. Okay, how many times does each unique word show up throughout the 1,000 documents, right? So for example, here I have a sentence like this. We conduct a conditional analysis to further verify blah, blah, blah. Then all these documents, thousands of them. How many times do we see we? Conduct, how many times do we see conduct? How many times? Conditional, right? How many times? Analysis, how many times? So you have to count all those things, right? And think about the frequency distribution for each unique word, right? And the question becomes like, let's rank them from the top to the bottom in terms of appearing, the frequency of appearing in those thousands of documents for unique words, okay? The question becomes which word, okay, what word in English is the word that shows up the most frequently in any documents, right? Throughout those thousands of documents, or regard, so that is the question, right? What is the most frequently appearing word in English, right? Guess what? Okay, you yourself do it. What is the most frequently used word? That turns out to be the, okay? The second most, of, third, and, to, a, in, like this, okay? And then you see that ranking, the most frequently used word, ranking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. And then the more interesting thing is the relative frequency is an important thing. So let's say the appears t times. Okay, this is rank number 1 frequency, t times. Okay, how many times does of show up? Guess what? It's ranked number 2, so it's close to T over 2. How about and? It's gonna be T over 3. 2, well, T over 4. Huh? It's like rank dependent, right? 5, like that. So much so that nth ranking, okay, nth most frequently appearing word, their frequency will be T divided by N, about this kind of, around this, okay? So you see the nice distribution like this, right? Convex distribution like this. We call it power law function. And actually, it's not precisely T over 2, but T to the power of alpha, okay? Some number alpha, but 3 over here to the alpha, and to the alpha. Kind of relation is found, usually, okay? So the degree of concentration, okay, is represented with this alpha, okay? We call it power law function, or 몇 급수 법칙, or 마태 법칙 in Korean terminology, right? And that is found first by Zipf here, Zipf the linguist, okay? And why do we care? Well, Zipf's law appears in so many different settings, okay? The concentration of wealth, right? Or concentration of population among different cities, right? For example, what is the largest city in Korea in terms of population? It must be Seoul, rank number 1, and rank number 2, Busan, Daegu, Daejeon, or something in like that, right? Goes down, but the population ratio, right? The population of Busan is about half of Seoul, and then the third biggest city's population is 1/3, almost 1/3 of the population of Seoul, and 1/4, 1/5, things like that. Okay, of course, to the power of alpha somehow. The population distribution follows this power law function, Zipf's law. Okay, it's a very important concept when you go to urban economics, right? Also, when it comes to the city of population city, right? New York, right? New York population, LA, Chicago, going on like that. How about China? Well, the biggest city in China in terms of population, what is it? I give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. I know so many of you must have said Beijing or Shanghai. Okay? But that's not true. The biggest city in China is what? Chongqing. Chongqing. Chungkyong, right? Chongqing. And then the population distribution looks like what? Well, Beijing is like a 18 million or 20 million around. Shanghai is like 17 million or something. So the power law function doesn't seem to hold, but well, guess what? This guy, population, Chongqing, 34 million. In a single city, 34 million. Okay? So it's like roughly the power law function still happens in China as well. Amazingly, you just go anywhere, right? Any natural setting, that is unadjusted by the government or untouched by the government or central organization or anything, the competition results happens like this. We call it Pareto law, okay, Pareto distribution kind of things. 2, 2대8, right? 가르마 2대8 kind of 2 to 8. The best guys, I don't know, like the most competent guys, 20% takes up 80% of the wealth or whatever, the resources in a country, the kind of things. Or when you go to natural competition in the jungle, right? The lion's share is like this, and hyenas and the cheetahs and the rest of the guys, like raccoons or something. It becomes like this, the distribution, okay? If anything is left untouched, okay? 부익부 빈익빈, kind of. The rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. things happen this way. Okay, Zipf's law. So even though it started from the linguist, right? This law, power law function, has so much implication. Having said something about this, let me go on further, right? Let's say this is a wealth distribution in rank number one. I don't know, Jeff Bezos, is that right? Or used to be what? Bill Gates, the richest person, and then number two was like what is it? Warren Buffett and the rest of the guys, right? The wealth distribution looked like this, okay? And that's consistent with capitalist world, right? Market competition makes the distribution of wealth like this, okay? GDP of the countries, it will look like that. But in contrast, okay? Communist countries, right? Communist countries, like Soviet Union or North Korea, okay? The wealth distribution is supposedly what? Flat. The number one guy or top performer, like the most diligently working guy, and then the least diligently working, laziest guy, they get the same pay. So that it's going to be flat. Remember, it is like T over n to the power of alpha. In that communist case, the alpha should be what? 0. Okay? And as competition gets steeper, we call it the tournament. The tournament gets tougher, this alpha increases. Okay? Tournament competition gets tougher, it gets increased, and more disproportionate wealth distribution happens. Now, for economists, it is a big question for a country or any society. Is it good to have this kind of 0 alpha or high alpha? Less tournament or more tournament? Okay? Which one is better to generate better outcome for the whole society? Which setting? Where would we be most productive and would we live happily, right? With maximum utility kind of things. That is a big question of all economists, right? So that has been studied a lot, and still a lot of room is there. And if you think about each corporation, right? You are going to get a job, perhaps maybe in Samsung or LG or whatever companies, and then foreign companies like Goldman Sachs and Google or whatever. But within those companies, Samsung, for example, the number one guys pay, number two guys pay, number three guys pay, and all the way down to the last guys pay. The distribution will look like this. But if you compare that with LG, that will look a lot flatter. 인화 단결, all right, kind of things. Less of a jealousy kind of things. Which organization produces better? Which organization is much more productive is a question. Okay, should we drive more competition within these members in the group versus not? Is a critically important question. And then if you look at the CEO and CFO, COO, those kind of chief level executives, we can think about their income distribution, like 연봉, right? The CEOs pay, COOs pay, and CFOs pay. Remember, you CPA guys, CFO is never number 2. They are number 3 guys only, okay? Marketing guys or those kinds of guys going to the market, COO, they are usually number 2, and they are more likely to become the CEOs, okay? That's why I say, don't just focus on CPA, but try something more like marketing kind of things, right? Anyway, tournament is there, right? Within that top management group. And you can consider, you can question, right? Should we bring more tournament within this top executives, or should we make the payment more like a communist country? Okay, communist company or something. Where, which company will have best productivity? Yeah, is a question. Now, one paper done by my friend who is Mike Boniano. He's a professor at Temple University. He had a top journal publication at Journal of Political Economy, and his paper looks at the golf tournament, PGA golf tournament. Anybody playing golf here, right? Golf tournament. Well, if you look at different tournaments of the golf, right, professional golfs, the tournament structure for the prize to the number one guy, prize to the number two guys, prize to number three guys will differ like this. But the degree of tournament is different depending on, depending on the various different tournaments have different tournament structure of the prizes. Okay, you know what I'm saying, right? So the question becomes, in which tournament, okay, which game, would the players on average, all the players in the golf, will try their best to minimize their putts, right? 타수 줄이기, kind of, the lower number of putts, and then you get, better performance there, right? Where, okay, which kind of tournament structure will be driving these golf players to do their best? And the answer becomes more tournament than communist kind of setting. Okay, why? It gives you more reason to work harder. Okay, just reducing one putt rewards you tremendously compared to the situation you lost right over here. So if that is the case, well, why don't I try one level harder than taking rest and then lay back, right? So that's how we get more diligent to work. The tournament structure matters, and then it adds to productivity. That's one research finding, okay, you can think about. Of course, the jury is still out, okay? So this is why so many economists, like finance and accounting and economics professors, do the research in this with this kind of data, okay? And then corporate level, the stories can be consistent like that. Some people find the opposite direction result, things like that. If too much wealth, too much power is concentrated onto one person, the CEO, that's a symptom of corruption. And then bad governance. Nobody can check him. Too powerful. So that's why those kind of companies, their stock performance is bad. Lucian Bebchuk of Harvard Law School has a paper about it. So very interesting debate is going on. Where do we stand in Korea, right? That's something you can investigate later. Anyway, so having said that, power law function and Zipf's law is there. Yes, I told you about this. Superstar effect, we call it, okay? If you look at K-pop group and their YouTube or whatever, the number of likes, right? The fan numbers for the superstar versus not, right? The number one guys, Blackpink, right? They will take this kind of things. Well, even with Blackpink, and then who is that? The number two, I don't know, Red Velvet or whatever, ITZY kind of things. Goes down. Of course, even within Blackpink, right? Which one gets the most Instagram followers, right? You go ahead and find out, okay? Which one? Lisa, and then Jenny, and then members over there, right? You can draw this kind of power law function. It naturally pops up. Why does this thing happen for the superstars? Because people have bounded rationality in finding and remembering all these members, right? The number one can be always remembered. The number two is relatively forgotten. That's why, okay? Bounded rationality creates one of this problem over there, okay? Anyway, distribution of wealth among people, yeah, right? If you're familiar with the name Thomas Piketty, yeah, go ahead and read his papers, right, and books. Matthew effect, 마태 법칙, yeah. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. Okay, so that's a critical message you'll have to remember. Of course, getting back to here, right? The stop words like the over here, the, a, of kind of things. Stop words, 관사, 정관사, and then 전치사 kind of things in Korean terminology. In language counting, right? The negative words and positive word count, you drop those things and then count the rest of them. Okay? But the key message is even without those stop words, you have this kind of distribution still happening. Because it's all about the the proportion game or 비율 game, right? It sustains there. Okay? What matters, the key message is remember and then work with the usual day-to-day language, day-to-day words to count positive and negative tone of it. And the rest is done. Okay? You don't need to worry about 100,000s ranking number or word over there. Okay? Everything over here is just good enough. Okay, that's the key message here. But in a sidestep, Ziff's law is a very important one. I'm going to ask you questions in your exams. Yes. And then taking that power law function into Korean setting, here is a chart that I draw with the market cap, 시가총액 of top 18 companies in Korea in 3 different time periods, 2007, 12, and 15. All right? Why? I just wanted to see how much of a wealth concentration is happening or economic power being concentrated upon a very small number of companies, corporations, right? You know what is the number 1 company in Korea. Number 2 or 3, or the rest of them changed, okay, their names. But I'm just forgetting about their names, just care about the rank over there, right? The 2nd and 3rd and 4th, year by year. How did it change, right? You see, 2017, like this, right? 2000, wait, did I say 17? 2007, 2012, 2015, right? 2015, right? You see much more disproportionate concentration of economic power, okay, into those top 3 and top 1 essentially, right? This is part of the reason why you want to work for Samsung Electronics indeed. I understand that part. And number 2, right? I understand number 2 that your pay is a function of the size of the company. That's it. Because they have economic power there. They can afford to pay you more. It's natural that you get attracted, right? So I sympathize you. Okay, good luck. Okay, my best students, some of my best students work for Samsung Electronics, right? You know that. So I sympathize that. But on the other hand, as an economic planner, social planner, right? Social planner's perspective, is this a healthy economy for the whole country or something? That's something we have to worry about, okay? Yeah. So that's something I throw you as a question. NBA Facebook likes, superstar gets the most of it. And then number 2 is only half of what number 1 guy gets. That's that. And then any problem with dictionary approach? Yeah, right? Ziff's law takes care of it. You just need to focus on the small number of frequently used words. All right. Getting back to the argument about whether this language tone, right, quantified language tone, is a measure of sentiment or a measure of qualitative information, right? It's an interesting debate. And Paul Tetlock, right? His first paper was about, it's about sentiment being quantified. That's behavioral finance guy. but he didn't want to piss off Eugene Fama, right? The next paper he published is more about the information story, right? There in Journal of Finance 2008 paper, okay, he works with computational linguist over there. He uses 350,000 news articles from Wall Street Journal about S&P 500 companies over the period of 1980 to 2004. Okay, and then he does the same Harvard for language, the dictionary counting over there, and then language tone. He finds that language tone of each company's news article have predictive power for the company's future accounting performance. Interesting, isn't it? It's supporting the second one. The language tone is an information, right? It's not a single-bladed sword. It is double-edged sword. Okay, it can work both ways. Is it information or sentiment, right? In this paper, he talks about information part. It is informative about future performance. When then you can think about this company as a black box, right? It's a black box. We don't know what the hell is going on within this company as an outsider. Maybe CEO knows, but the journalist, right, doesn't know. Outside investors, they don't know, right? You and me don't know about Apple or whatever or Netflix. But the journalists, right, they don't know as an outsider, but they talk to the CEO, okay, or talk to the key people and get some qualitative information before anything happens, right? It is not necessarily insider secret, but something, right, that's coming up, okay? It should not be something like M&A happening, okay? That's total insider secret that should never ever be disclosed. But some other information that is in the gray area, the CEO can talk to the journalist, and then the journalist, once you have this kind of negative qualitative information, you can write it somewhere, right? Doesn't come with the specific number, but you have that language tone. It's just you cannot help but releasing negative words when there is negative things going on. Okay, black box disclosed unintentionally by this language tone by the journalist. That's the idea over here. So it's not a sentiment. Okay, again, this is not a sentiment, right? But the information part. Awfully confusing. No. It's about information about the cash flow and risk. And that's why this language tone, he finds that the language tone has a predictive power for accounting performance, the fundamental, right? Future fundamental, predicted by this language tone. That's the story here. The title of the paper is More Than Words Is All You Have to... Yeah, that's it. If you wonder what that song is, go ahead and watch YouTube video of fantastic music. You should watch it, okay? In addition to studying individual firms' stock returns, we investigate whether negative words can be used to improve expectations of firms' future cash flow. This is how they do it. Okay, negative tone, that's it. But the second part is just, what is it? Standardizing it, okay? Standardizing that negative tone for a certain period, right? This is a part of the table that he shows, right? All those returns are predicted by this negative tone over here. Okay, negative tone, right? So that's the key message of the article, this paper. And then behavioral finance and efficient market hypothesis. I brought some part of his discussion in the paper. He's wonderfully writing. Okay, it's a wonderful writing skill that took him to the Journal of Finance over there. To go between this conflict of argument of behavioral finance and then neoclassical finance. Yeah, so artistically written. Anyway, in language tone quantified in data, English news I showed you before, Korean analyzed, and then Analyzing tone of news articles, Twitter messages, and Facebook postings. You can do that using this technique. Predicting the behavior of black box entities like companies, countries, and etc. etc. And this is one of the techniques that robo-analyst, robo-advisor companies in FinTech frequently use, right? This is a bread and butter technology. And then predicting North Korea's military aggression by me. I have a paper about it. Okay. There the idea is this time the black box is not the company, but a country called North Korea. Who knows North Korea? They're inside. I mean, anybody has an idea about who is rank number 2 guy in North Korea? Number 1 guy is clear, Kim Jong-un, right? Number 2 guy, number 3 guy, number 4 guy. Don't you think you have to know who are those guys to better understand that that country's strategic movement? But we don't know. The terrible thing is that informationally, we don't know. The reality is that Korean newspaper, they say what? All of a sudden, Choi Ryong-hae got convicted and then he was persecuted and perhaps he's got killed somewhere. Choi Ryong-hae used to be number 2 guy, but he's killed somehow. They say it in the journal, right? Why? Couple of months later, Choi Ryong-hae reappears and then the journal says what? Oh, Choi Ryong-hae revived, resurrected, like Jesus or something like that. Back to power number 2. How do you know? All that is because we don't have information about this black box, so that the journalist and then the guys in the CIA, Korean CIA maybe, they are only studying the pictures of Kim Jong-un or North Korea and watch carefully about who is standing closest to Kim Jong-un number 1 guy. That must be number 2 guy. And if those number 2 guys disappear, maybe he got killed or something or persecuted. 숙청 or 굴락, going to 굴락 or 노동교화소에 가서 it's kind of so that's our guessing work going on. This is kind of really ridiculous situation. And then we are facing them 56 kilometers away from Seoul, right? They can shoot any moment, and we still don't know what the heck they are doing. Number 2 guy, we don't know. He's a big black box, right? So how can we better understand, and then how can we extract some non-quantifiable information in such a way that we can quantify and then use it to predict some surprise attack. Okay, surprise attack like gun shooting or cannon shooting kind of invasion or something like that. Nuclear weapons testing. My idea is, well, there are many journalists covering North Korea, and especially foreigners, right? Different nationalities, right? They cover North Korea and then publish in news articles in different countries. We take, me and my team take 5-6 different countries. British media, North Korean news, and the US media, North Korean news. Japan, China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Of course, Korea. Okay. Because we have Korea Herald. And guess which country's journalist has best predictive power when we use that negative tone or pessimism tone, okay, into a prediction model, okay, predicting North Korea's surprise attack kind of things in a logistic regression, right? Guess which country? As it turns out, it's not South Korea, it's not US, it's not China, but the UK. Okay? British media has the best predictive power about North Korea's attack. That's quite a surprise, actually. Why is that the case? Because this is the country where they exchange those ambassadors with North Korea. Okay? London versus Pyongyang, they exchange it. So the key information can be more abundant in London than in Washington, D.C. or in Seoul, right? Number 2, Britain used to be the country, it is the country in Europe that allows for the maximum degree of freedom, for freedom of your thoughts. Okay, whatever ideology you follow, it's up to you. So that during the Cold War era, there were so many communist organizations by British people, okay, 노랑머리 people, right? And then before that, Karl Marx, right? The German guy, German Jewish guy, published his book, Das Kapital, in London. And then he did his Communist Manifesto in London, not in Berlin, because Europe was conservative, Britain was the place, like San Francisco, go west kind of things, okay? West, come on. Anyway, so Britain has a lot of communist organization over there, but with the détente, the breakdown of Eastern communist world, right? Soviet Union and then the Berlin Wall, right? Those pro-communist organizations in Britain had no place to resort to. 등 비빌 데가 없네. Who can back them up? The only really communist country in the whole world turned out to be, yes, you guessed right, North Korea. So they have a lot of interactions over there. Okay, British, not American, same Caucasian people, very different. Okay, you have to think about it. Same English speaking. That's a very surprise. Okay, so their language tone has significant, very, very significant predictive power about North Korea's forthcoming attack. So that's my paper, published in a political science journal, and then was highlighted by the Washington Post. Okay, blog by a top political scientist in Georgetown University. Thank you for that part. Professor Eric Witten was highlighting my paper. So black box, how can we predict? Well, as long as the black box related thing has some language tone over there, analyze it. Real-time feed to algorithmic trading in hedge funds, you can work it out, right? Data source is like Refinitiv or Ravenpack, etc., etc. Factiva is there as well. And automated trading, you can do it based on this quantified language tone. And then augmented reality kind of supplementary information and can be done with this one. Okay, I'm not saying that the computer algorithmic trading can be perfect with this purely based on language tone, because there is a concern of what? Fake news these days, right? So that's one challenge these days that we face. Anyway, social media, right? People analyze language tone of social media like Facebook and Twitter. SKKU students won the first prize, by the way, in 미래세태우's quant competition 2 years ago by analyzing the tone of influencers' social media words. I'm proud of them, yeah. And then Tesla's CEO have been tweeting a lot, and it has significant predictive power of stock returns. Any other problems with dictionary approach? Word sense disambiguation is a problem there. Okay, word sense disambiguation, because in Tetlock's approach, every word has the same weight. Okay, down versus crash, it's all negative, but crash is more serious than down, isn't it? Slipped down versus down is also different. There's this kind of ambiguous but very sensitive, fine line that you want to distinguish. People in the research bring more sophistication in that sense. Jagadish and Wu that you see over here, they are doing this kind of research. A bag of words matched with stock returns on the day of the news announcement, and then they address this question: what words are associated with the largest magnitude of negative price movement? Okay, that's their approach. Natural language processing, yes. News analytics in finance, the book is there by Mitra and Mitra, yes. And then NLP, right? Count the words. Yeah, I told you about it. Yes. Um, some of you may wonder, why not educate the machine to fully understand what's being talked about? Okay. Grammatical structure of English language versus Korean versus Japanese language matters over there. I mean, if you want to really seriously run some machine learning, why can't we just educate this computer to be so smart so that it remembers, oh, Samsung Electronics is chip manufacturer, and then this news about semiconductor has to do with Samsung Electronics, and then automatically calculates what so and what not by identifying the word which is a subject word, which is a verb kind of things, right? Well, we can't do that. Why? Here's the contrast. The order of words matters in English, right? For example, I like behavioral finance. You get the meaning, right? Good. How about this? Behavioral finance like I. What did you say? The third one, like behavioral finance I. What? So even though these are the same spelled words, the position, okay, where does it come? First, second, and third, it matters in English. For computer, there's no way of doing it. Okay, no way of doing it. So that the computer to let the computer understand which is the subject, so that it has to be the center of the attention over here. No, okay, we cannot do that in English or any European language based one, the Latin language based one. Okay. How about Korean? In contrast, the other day was Hangul날, the day of the Hangul Korean language was, announced and then, publicized to the general people, right? By King Sejong, Sejongdaewang. Yes, we say this is one of the most, perhaps the most scientific language in the world. Okay, one of the most. Okay, why? Here it is. The order of words does not matter in Korean or Japanese language. Okay? 나는 행동 재물을 좋아한다. Okay? You get the meaning. I like behavioral finance. The second sentence, 좋아한다 행동 재물을 나는. Oh, I still get it. Why? Because there is some tail part. Okay? That identifies and tells us that it is the object word. Object, right. And then the subject word is distinguished by this tail part of it, 나는. Okay? In Japanese language, it's watashi wa, right? That's it. 좋아한다. 한다 means like a 서술어, right? Or it's like a describing something. This is like a expressive word. Okay? So you can identify easily which one is the subject, okay? Which one is the object, and is what is being done over there. And then also here, 행동 재물을 나는 좋아한다. Okay. Did I sound more like North Korean guy? Okay. Fine. Again, we can always find out which word is the main part and the other is object part. Okay. Likewise, Korean language or Japanese language has much more potential for computer to understand precisely what that means and accumulate the knowledge and information, so that you can automatically trade based on it. But what? The English-based ones, essentially they gave up educating the computer to understand the meaning of English language through inductive approach. Korean language or inductive, 연역적인, right? You give the rule first of grammatical structure, and then throw in the data. That's the inductive approach, right? Right. Instead, they focus on frequency counts and relative frequency. Okay. Out of total words, how much percentage was positive words and things like that. Also, they have been using machine learning to make the computer understand the sentences by looking at trillions of texts and conversations. They said, well, forget it. Let's give up being like Korean structure over there. Okay, it's impossible. Instead, What we have in English language is that we have so many people speaking English, right? So that we have a big, huge data of language of English, right? So that we can do our own way of machine learning to educate the computer somehow, even though it may not be perfect, like what we can dream about with Korean or Japanese. Okay, English language based one can go somewhere with this approach, with this big data. CD and Nugu, right, in SKT is trying that kind of things. Also, they have been using machine learning to make the computer understand the sentences, right? Yeah. Why not Korean linguists and finance experts cooperate? Yeah, Soft, they have been trying this for a long time. A bunch of guys are working, but the culture of academia over Korea is kind of very secretive, and they are not cooperating much, especially with the industry. I hope some company, will work with me, but nobody approaches me. Maybe I should approach them, right, somehow, in the near future. Anyway, the state-of-the-art computational linguist Dan Jurafsky is over here, Stanford computer science guy. His famous book, The Language of Food. Go ahead and read it sometime. And then another limitation of this media-based sentiment quantification is this one. Don't believe the hype, right? Media slant and advertisement by Umit Gurun and Alex Butler, right? Media slant and advertisement, what does that mean? Well, you analyze the language tone of the news media, but good luck with that. Why do I say? Those media, they cannot say bad words to the advertisement host, right? Your news media, 조선일보, let's say, or 한겨레, is advertising Samsung Electronics, right? And you get money from Samsung Electronics. They feed you. You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. That's the idea, right? So typically those media tone will be more positive if the media receives a lot of advertisement expense from one single company like that. Okay, so that's the idea over here. So what's the message? Whenever you do this kind of language tone analysis, make sure you control for those advertisement expense of the company, right? By default, those high ad expense company will receive positive media tone. It's sounding good, right? Like that. Okay, and here is an example that I created for you. The language tone about Samsung Electronics. Here the measure on the vertical axis is number of negative words minus number of positive words divided by total word count in any given news articles. Month by month, tens of thousands of news articles, I calculated this and took the average, monthly average of it. Okay, and you can see a time series plot like bumping around. Okay, but rather it is in the negative side. Okay, negative side, which means positive words is bigger than number of negative words. The media slant is there. Oh, Samsung Electronics, we love you, yay! Kind of things is happening, right? But then, at one point, the language tone became much more critical. The spike up of this tone is significant. At this point, what happened? Well, that is a month when Samsung Mulsan, okay, Samsung Corporation or something, was taken over by 제일모직, right? Jail Industries. There was a serious concern about the governance issue, and then where the shareholders were looted or something. Shareholders of Samsung Mulsan were looted, kind of things, right? For the interest of the owner of not the owner, right, but the founder family, I should say, because owner is like every shareholders are owners, right? But the founding family, Lee Jae-yong, right? For that purpose, maybe they were sacrificed, so that everybody started to, criticize this company, and then subsumed later on. That's what you can see. In this chart. Good. Then the next chart is another interesting chart. What I show you over here is based on 2 million news articles. I calculated this for you, which is the language tone, okay, of each different economics media. 매경, 서울경제, and then financial news, and then 한경, Herald Economics, like that. And then by the weekdays, is there any weekday pattern? Okay. And here is an interesting pattern that I see. Right. First of all, 매경, supposedly this is the largest economics newspaper in Korea. So they have a whole portfolio of advertisement spenders like that, right? Whereas Herald Econ, this is the smallest guy in news media. They don't have much of a advertisers in the first place. Weak, so that they have to be dependent on much more on those kind of potential advertisers, the corporations, the CEOs, right? So which one should sound better? Okay, which one should sound better to the company and then the CEO, right? The management. Which one should be more flattering, right? Obvious, this one. Okay, and you see consistent result. You see that this measure is, remember, negative word count minus positive word count. So the higher it is, the more critical. Okay, out of total word count. More critical, more flattering. And more flattering is happening over here. And 매경 is relatively more objective, more critical maybe, you may say, depending on where you stand, right? If I throw in 한겨레, right, or 경향신문 is way up over there. So different media has different degrees of flattering, okay, the slant. Number 2, you see, what is it? Weekday pattern is there. Weekday pattern. Well, let's take 한국경제, for example, over here, our guy over here. During the weekdays, Monday through Thursday, it's just there, right? The tone doesn't change too much. But Friday, it starts to become more critical, okay? And Saturday, oh my God, so much negative, right? And it seems like all the social justice happens in the weekends, right? Why is this thing happening? Is the weekend so much good because you go to church or somewhere and you realize that you have to be a good social citizen? No, that's not the case, I say. This is the period, this is a time when the advertisers, right? The PR division of the corporations, they go for golfing, right? They don't pay attention too much so that the media guys can be more critical. And after Sunday, right, they get to normal and say, 회장님, right? It's like the CEO, yes, you're a great guy. This is happening. The weekly pattern happens over there. Okay? Very interesting pattern. And also, this kind of spike up and reversal can also be explained by this. This is a time when the corporations release bad earnings surprise or something like that. So bad news, you hoard it until the weekend, and then when the readers go to golfing or whatever, right, you release that bad news, right? So that's another explanation of it. Okay? Which one wins? I don't know, but it's worth investigating. Which explanation, I mean. Anyway, so that's that. So shall we stop analyzing the tone of news media? The answer is no. Okay? You must control for advertisement expense of the company. Marketing matters in finance, right? In this sense. Advertisement is about marketing. And then Lofran and McDonald, those two scholars, had a Journal of Finance 2011 paper. And that is pointing out another part of the limitation of this language-based approach, okay? The word count approach, right? The thing is, the Harvard 4 dictionary is not constructed by finance experts or accounting experts, but psychology experts. So these guys don't know much about finance and accounting. So what happens? The liability word, right? The word liability is not really a negative word, but it is in the negative word list. Remember, liabilities is just one item in the dictionary, in the financial statement, right hand side. Okay, you can say it, not meaning any negative things, right? So why don't we modify Harvard 4 dictionary to reflect the specific nature of this field called finance and accounting? So that's Lofgren and McDonald's refined word list called fin negative and fin positive. If you remember my discussion before, that's the word count that I did before. And Kim, Kang, and Lee, right? Refinement of context into the North Korea context, right? We try to refine it, reflecting 주체 word and 굴락 word, because the research was about North Korea situation, not corporate situation. Anyway, so that's that. Yeah, Washington Post blog highlighted my papers. Takes up time to show this one, but anyway, okay, there it comes. Right, come on up. Yeah. Yes. Want to know when North Korea's next aggressive act will be? Check British newspapers and birthday calendar. Why? Because during the birthday time, they shoot the missiles as a celebration. Birthday of whom? 김정은 동지, right? 친애하는 지도자 김정은 동지께서 미사일을 날리셨다. Kind of. 삶은 소대가리가 웃을. Yes, kind of. So that's that. Effect of news tone on stock returns. Yes, stale news analysis is also there. Paul Tetlock is a star guy again, right? His third paper is about stale news. It's more like my CNBC interview paper, okay? In the sense that CNBC interviews, the CEOs cannot release any new news into this cable television framework, because you have to be fairly disclosing everything to everybody who is not even watching CNBC. So in the end, the interview setting, you will only release some stale news. Okay, stale means 김 빠진 맥주, kind of already it's gone, right? It's not a first shot. So that's that. Interview is that, but if you look at those news articles you can obtain in everywhere, right? Most of the cases, those news articles copy and paste, 복붙 from somebody else, right? 복사에다 붙여, kind of copy and paste from the original news article. And then this copied and pasted news is a stale news, right? As opposed to this original news, right? So according to finance, the theory, efficient market hypothesis, what should happen when the stale news is happening over there? Not the original news, initial news, but the stale news, 복붙 news, right? Then the price response should be what? Now you will be familiar with this answer. Should be spike and reversal, just like CEO interviews at CNBC, okay? Or the Joey Engelberg's paper, the Jim Cramer, okay? Jim Cramer talking about a certain company, right? Drawing attention. Same story should hold. And the more stale the news is, the more jump and reversal you will see it. That's what he finds over here. Then the question becomes, how do you measure the degree of staleness, right? Degree of staleness. Holy cow, the staleness. I told you it's a 복붙 approach. Doesn't it ring any bell to your brain? Okay. Yeah, it's consistent, that approach to detect your plagiarism when you copy and paste a certain part of other people's papers, right? In the Google, whatever. Copied and pasted to your report, and I throw this into the machine to match the text in the internet, right? It rings the bell when there's so much of an overlap of those words showing up together in a sequence or something like that. Ah, that's how it works, right? So that's the degree of staleness when it comes to news articles. So that's what he does over here. Similarity score is the one that I'm talking about. NLP technique used to find plagiarism to detect who stole ideas from others without citation. Okay, that's this guy. The number of unique words in the intersection of two news articles divided by that of unique words in the union of the two, A, B, right? So article A, article B, there must be some bag of words for A and bag of words for B, and some of them are overlapping, right? Like this, intersection. The similarity score of news article A and B will be the number of words in the intersection. Okay, intersection over here. That's this guy on the numerator. Denominator is about the whole thing. Okay, the union of this. Okay, out of this union, how much of it overlaps? That's the degree of similarity, and this is the one that Tetlock measures as the staleness of news. Okay, the number of unique words appeared in the news article. Yeah, bag of words. That's it. Anyway, so here's an example. Tesla 2018. At that point, Elon Musk said something about it. And then there was a news article 1 and 2. The article 1 says SEC sues Elon Musk over Tesla tweets. Elon Musk, the CEO of the electric car company Tesla, is being sued by the SEC, all of which started with a tweet. And article 2 says Tesla shares fell after SEC alleges Musk lied to investors. Tesla shares dropped more than 12% Friday morning following the Securities and Exchange Commission's announcement that it will sue the company's chief executive Elon Musk. Okay, fine. So between these two articles, what's the similarity score? Okay, it works like this. The article number 1 and article number 2, the way I do it will be list up all the unique list up all the words first of all, right? There is a text to column function in Excel. At least you can do it by hand, right? Even though it takes some time. And then every word is split into boxes of those cells, right? And then you can transpose it to be vertical and then sort it by alphabetical order. The first one is that first column. That's why you see a duplicate observations over here of Musk, 2 times showing up. Number 2 is the article number 2, right? And we do the same for all words appearing, right? And then delete frequently used words like and the stop words, pronouns, and then auxiliary verbs, 조동사 kind of things. Count only once for unique words appearing multiple times. Delete numbers, right? And then transform it into the root form of the words, 원형, 동사 원형 kind of things. Delete frequently used technical jargons in finance and accounting, like Lafran and McDonald. And then the news article 1 becomes like this word list over here. Number 2 becomes like this, okay? Or card, commission, blah, 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 blah. And then 14 words show up. And then after alleges, 18 words showing up, okay? Now you line up these two in a one column and see which one overlaps. Oh, commission is overlapping. Elon is overlapping. Exchange, oh yeah, Musk, of course, SEC, and securities, Sue, and Tesla, right? Those words are intersection words. So how many of them? 8 of them over here, summation. How about the union? These two, okay, these two combined is this one. Once you eliminate this, eliminate the words in the intersection, you're gonna have union like this, right? Orange words deleted, and this one becomes like this. So how many words? 24. So the similarity of these two articles turns out to be 33 0.4%, which is 1/3. Okay, 1/3 similar. And then average similarity score of news articles to prior 10 news can be counted. For each given news articles, go back, okay, in time about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 news articles. For each news articles, you can compute the similarity scores with this one that you are interested in. Those similarity scores over 10 prior news articles, take the average of it. That's 11%. Okay, in the paper of Paul Tetlock. That's what I'm saying. Not here because I have only two news articles over here. Anyway, so that's that. So similarity score, how to measure it, and that matters. More stale news, higher similarity score, and for that kind of cases, more jump and reversal happens, right? More jump and reversal happens. Let me go back over here. More jump and reversal for this kind of stale news. Da, da, like this. Instead of the, da. Okay? More stale. Not stale. And then who trades on this kind of stale news? Guess what? Individual investors, not institutional investors. Okay? That's what they find, what he finds, right? Tetlock. Amazing guy, by the way. Yeah. And then that's not the end. That's not the end. Brand new research about text mining in finance looks like this, right? For R&D, right? For research and development, the companies have to disclose something in their accounting reports. You know that, right? But the language that you use in describing your R&D projects matters over there. You want to be cautious over there in your language so that you don't want to get sued later on. So if your R&D project, right? I mean, think about these two different cases, for example. Big pharma company developing vaccines for COVID-19, which sounds more trustworthy. Number one, we developed it. Absolutely no failure was found. You, take it. We call it Sputnik. This is a Russian one, okay? This case is the first one. And then the second one, okay? I have nothing against Russia, by the way. The second one, it says, let's say, the XXXXX team has made significant progress since our last R&D day 12 months ago. The pipeline has matured with our COVID-19 vaccine in a phase 3 study and 4 candidates in phase 2 studies. We are actively preparing blah, blah, blah like this. Which one is much more trustworthy? Obviously number 2. Why? Because you know that this is a very tricky and sophisticated product that you have to be careful about. And then you know that no test can be perfect, right? But the first one, claiming perfectness up front, without any doubt, this is a Sputnik, Russian, take it. Good luck, right? So that is a distinction. But recent research finding, right, finds that the company's language that uses this kind of cautious language in describing R&D, cautious words like this, right? Cautious, or a bit more like what? Weaselly word, I would say. Okay, it will come later. Their subsequent performance is better than the ones that are carelessly using this kind of, blunt words and too much clear word. Okay, in R&D. Okay, in R&D. Now, who is, then the question becomes, why? How do you identify, right? Those kind of words that you are trying to be more cautious in expressing it. The researchers that I talk about goes to Wikipedia. Okay, Wikipedia used to be laughed at before, but nowadays, after 20 years or more, enough of knowledge is accumulated already, so that it's much more reliable than before. And then there it is crowd knowledge. How do you say? Crowd effect is going on, so that some people, if they write it some words that are not clear, So then the other people points to that specific word and say, that's not clear. Okay, could you clarify somehow, like that? And in that sense, they have something called the weasel line, right? In Wikipedia to those intentionally imprecise words. For example, over here, okay, this is the researcher, okay, that you see over here, 노준기 박사님 over here, 교수님. Anyway, the TikTok man, right? For example, many consider this album to be the quintessential TikTok sound. Sounds like good, but many doesn't specify how many. Okay, what number? Be specific, please. There's a room for doubt about whether you are really telling the truth or just trying to advertise something. The second example, Manu Parotle. Okay. It has been said that the Manu Parotle can be seen along the man of top 3 across from the Altamira beach, about 25 minutes from the Manu resort. But it has been said. Who said it? Nobody knows. Could you be more specific about it? That's weasel line getting in over there. Not using specific word, okay? But when it comes to R&D progress, you want to be careful. You don't want to be too much specific, okay? Communication is important, but you have to be strategically clear in communication. That's the message over here, okay? Not just blindly clear, but strategically. You have to be careful, okay? Precise to a certain degree. You need to go below the radar somehow, okay? When it comes to R&D, you have to be careful like this. That's the message. And then those companies perform better. You can find out that kind of companies using big data approach. That's this team of researchers, Coxon, KD Moon, and 노준기 박사님 over here. 노준기 박사님, 노 교수님, he's now working at Case Western University as an assistant professor. He's an amazing guy as well. He is a doctor. What do you mean? He is first doctor in computer image processing in University of Michigan, right? Second doctor he got in finance at Emory University. Holy cow, right? So he gave a wonderful seminar at SKKU a couple of weeks ago. So we're proud to have him there, right? So that's basically it about this kind of language-based measures. Machine learning in finance. You can see a nice lecture by Harvard professor Mulanathan, right? In this YouTube link. But I hope you enjoyed so far about my class talking about quantifying the language tone. Is it sentiment or information? You can talk both ways, right? But the prediction on the stock price is different. Sentiment, psychology, temporary response. Information, permanent response. Key importance. So I'm going to ask you this question in your exam. Wait for that, okay? Anyway, if you have any questions, please ask me through email. Thank you very much for watching and see you. Bye-bye.